Zoom logistics now, but I think the main thing is just if you're not speaking to make sure that you're muted so we don't have echoing calls in the background. But that should be about it. David, did you want to go through introductions and roll call for any of that, or just go straight through?
No, let's just go straight through.
Okay. So we mentioned this on the last call, but we are aiming for the learning session number 3 to be in January 2021. So we'll have more information as we get closer to that date. Also, you've probably seen some emails go out from Andrew as well as Anira. All of the core measure is now on ETO, and it looks like data is coming in. Oh, hi, Anira, I'm looking at your chat. So the data is coming in, it looks like, for all of the programs we've checked in, and we've been getting at least a little bit of data from that. Anira, I guess through chat, if there's anything you want to add about ETO or updates, just let us know, since your mic's not working. Okay. And then, Andrew, is there anything that you wanted to update regarding ETO? I think we're all set and up to date, but if there's anything you want to add, just let me know.
One little note, I think the last change that I'm aware of that was kind of held up was adding a couple of items for the LCDA programs. They've been added to ETO. There was some trouble getting the data out of ETO, but that's been resolved. There's a little bit of R code to write on my end, but I expect those items should be available to the LCDA folks, and the data put into those items should be in our data sets by the end of the day.
Okay, great. So for the LCDA programs, if you don't see that, please let us know, and we'll also have analysts reach out if we don't see data coming in or if there seem to be any issues on our end. So we'll check back with you about that. But otherwise,
I see the data. We were able to see it, but I guess they were not able to pull out. But I have a question. I know that a couple of my staff has said, well, it's giving me this notification that I need to complete the PDSA of this family, but they're not part of the PDSA. So I wanted to know how to determine that this is part of the PDSA or not, or that's the Learn Collaborative and that they're getting that because of that. But this one particular said PDSA, the notification that she got.
so David, that's
I'll field that one, Helen.
Yeah.
I think the only alerts that we have in place should be for the Learning Collaborative. And the qualifications for that are just whether or not they have a father, an identified father figure in the home. They don't necessarily have to be participating in your specific PDSA, Patty. But maybe we should ask Anira or John if he's on. Are there any other alerts that have been programmed in for specific PDSAs?
I don't think John's able to be on the call. He's on, I believe, vacation, Anira said. Anira might be chatting in because her, so her mic's not working. So she said that John should be able to update as he returns next Monday. But he's out. So that's what she just chatted.
Okay, so I guess I'll let them know that whatever notification they're getting is for the Learn Collaborative that they need to complete if the father is present or if a father figure is present in the home. I guess everyone is going to receive that until they determine if they have a father figure the first time, and then it will not pop up, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, that's the hope. We're going to have to, there are probably some bumps along the road there before we get that working complete, working for everybody, but that is the plan, yes.
Anira also said in the chat she has a meeting on Thursday and she'll get back to everyone later this week about this.
Okay. While you continue through the agenda, Helen, I'll pull up ETO and see if I can find some instances where the PDSA specific alerts show up. And if I do, we'll put a screenshot up for everyone to see.
Okay. All right, so those were the main ETO updates. Some of you have some of the programs have started to receive some dashboards from their analysts. So on the Common Core measures, you may have seen some. I know that some went out last week. As we get more data, more of those will also continue to come out. The plan is to try and get them out, looks like still on a weekly schedule, so Thursday, Friday, that those will be delivered, as long as there's new data coming in.
Yeah, just to clarify there, so I don't think anybody has received a PDSA specific dashboard yet, and that's because there's so limited, there's very little data right now for us to pull into those dashboards. But a few of you who have never asked that your common measures dashboard be turned off. I know some of you did ask that during the COVID shutdown back in April. You're still getting those weekly. And we're about to turn that faucet back on for everybody. So you'll be able to see the core measures dashboard, all programs. And then as more data comes in, probably mid-September or so, we'll start to disseminate those PDSA specific dashboards.
Okay. David, those were the only updates we had for ETO and data. Is there anything else you wanted to mention before we do some show and tell?
Well, I think indirectly we touched on it. Just that, again, the alert system is in place now, and the intention is for all providers to be collecting our core measure. We did disseminate, I believe, Caitlin, correct me if I'm wrong, we disseminated a Spanish translated version of that just last week. So you should have an English translation and a Spanish translation now in PDF form. Those can be printed off and filled out by hand if preferable, and then later entered into ETO. I know that is some programs, some providers' preferred approach, or you could just directly enter it into ETO, whichever works best.
Okay. So we wanted to do some more show and tell. So if you remember from last month, we had a few of the programs go through and present their SMART aims. So pulling up the document, reviewing their SMART aims and walking through the change theory and just providing a brief reference to the outcomes, process, and disruptor measures that you're trying to capture for this PDSA. Probably about 10 minutes per program. I know last time some went even more quickly. And the analysts are on the call as well if anybody needs help pulling up those documents. I believe Caitlin contacted those who were supposed to present, so you should have had a little bit of forewarning, hopefully, that we were going to ask you. So we were going to start with Cap Tulsa. I haven't checked to see if everybody's on the call.
Yeah, we're here.
Oh, perfect. Are you
How you
able?
doing?
Hi. Are you able to pull up the documents, or do you need any help with that?
Let me see if I can share the screen.
Okay.
Um,
I can stop sharing on my end so
Okay,
that
yeah.
you can be able to pull up on yours.
so I'm Ariana Betancourt, and I'm the manager of Learning at Home, and also is present in the call Carolyn McCormick, which is a team lead for the MIECHV team. Let me share my screen. Can you see my PDSA?
We can't see. Oh, there we go. It's starting to
Yeah,
share.
okay.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
So, well, this is our PDSA. It's connecting that. That's the title. We are, our topic is fathers spending more time with their children and helping them to learn new things. Our primary driver is improving relationship with fathers. Our SMART aim is the number of fathers completing the provided activity at least once a month, increased by 20% from August to December. So our idea is we created 5 different activities for the parent educators to share with the families. And when they share with mom, we expect them to model or explain the activity to dad so they can do the activity. So I'm gonna go a little bit down here. So we have the activities. So those are the activities we selected: block play, but boxes are fun, over and under, shadow play, and rhythm and rhyme and rhythm. So all those 5 activities are PAT handouts, and they are all age. So we trying to find some activities that can be easy completed for any child or any children, all the children in the program. So let me go back. So our outcome measure will be the proportion of activity completed by father, the denominator, a count of qualifying families with an available father figure, and numerator would be the count of father completing the activity at home. So we were looking for a PDSA that was easy to complete. We know now how the planning educators are stressed out with so many managing so many different or changes right now because of COVID-19. So we were trying to look for something that they can easily explain or share to the family and of course to the father. So process measure the activities, number of activity pages completed. So we are we have those 5 activities and we just want to ask every month if the family or if the father completed activity that month. So we have a questions in our touch point. It's going to be, did qualifying father figure completed the provide activity this month? Yes or not? If not, why not? So we have family did not receive the activity. Parent educator did not mail the activity to the father, or PE parent educator did not model the activity to the father or to the mother. So the idea is we explain the activity. During the activity, the parent educator explain the activity to the mom. They can actually do that activity as the activity of the visit. And then the mom is going to model or explain the activity to the dad so that he can complete the activity. We make some changes here. We are not mailing the activities to the father. We prepare a package with all the handouts and a welcome letter. And we are gonna, we are planning to doing a drive-through to give away some bags as an incentive. So we thought that it would be better to just put the package in the bag so we know that the family have kind of like an incentive to come and pick up the package. The disruptor, well, the mother does not share the activity with father. The father does not have time to complete the activity, or other issues that we may encounter, like literacy or virtual visit that the father didn't actually participate. The mom didn't understand the activity to share with the dad. Father does not complete the activity because he didn't want to do the activity. So those are our disruptors. So what we expect is that 20%, at least 20% of the fathers will complete the activity at least once every month. So this information letter, is our welcome letter that we made. The PAT activity pages and everything is included in that package. And also, of course, the activity is going to be explained during the family, the home visit. The incentives, we still have those with a question mark. We are planning on having an incentive for fathers who complete all 5 activities with the child. So we are planning on including maybe a flashlight, a water bottle, or something like that we can have for the family, for the father if he complete all 5 activities. Who implement the change? Of course, parent educator. Who is targeted within the change was going to be families that have a father figure present at home. And what we increased the 20% amount of time the father figure spend with the child by completing a provided activity with the child at least once a month. Where parent educators will provide a model, a different activity page for every month. The mothers will show the activity to the father, parent educator follow up with mother, parent educator facilitate other ways to complete the activity as needed. Like if we see, because we have 2 visits a month, so we have time to catch, to see if, like, for example, like the mom didn't understand the activity or she didn't have the materials. So probably the parent educator can, assess those challenges and help and explain so the activity can be completed before the end of the month. The staff training during the staff meeting, we already train our parent educators and we show the touch points in ETO and the PDSA and the collaborative touch points. Information letter and activity page mailed to father. Well, we're not going to mail it, but we're going to give those away. And the incentives at the end of the PDSA mailed to the fathers. That will be in December or in January when we have the results. So again, those are the activities that we're going to do, and everybody's going to do the same. So like for August, it's block play. So all the parent educators are doing block play. And then September will be the next one. So we thought that way everybody can be on the same page. And those incentives ideas, the flashlight, battery charger, water bottle, and waterproof bag. And that's what we are thinking that we're going to do. And I wanted to show you our welcome letter. Can you still see my screen?
Yes, it's a little small because they're shared now. Oh, there you go.
Okay, so this is the welcome letter that I need to say thank you to Yolanda. She shared hers, so we took that as a good start for send a message to the fathers why we are doing this and what we expect the fathers to do. And it's kind of like an explanation that they are going to receive the activities and what we expect from them. We have this handout, your role as a dad, kind of like to explain a little bit more, and we add all PAT activities handouts. So that's going to be that's kind of like the package that we are going to give away.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Since you're about a month in, how's it been going so far?
Well, we are, the package haven't been gave away yet because we need a little more time for logistics to, we're thinking about a drive-through that we are going to invite the families to stop by, but the parent educators are already doing the activities, the block play activity with the families.
And are all the visits, they're still virtual visits, so they're doing the block play virtually?
Yes, yeah, we are only doing virtual visits, video calls or by phone.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Thank you. That was a great start.
You're welcome.
I think next on our list is LCDA, Safe Care, and PAT.
Correct.
Hi, Patty.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Are you able to share your screen and pull up your materials, or do you need help with that?
I will do that. Let me just see what I have. Just opening my screen. Can you see the screen?
Yes, we can see the screen.
So ours is a little similar.
Oh, right now
like
we're seeing your
so
email.
ours is
We're seeing your email so far, not the actual document.
okay, wait, I can see here the document. Okay, let me just go back.
Oh, there we go.
See it now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so ours is called Welcome Dad, and PAT and Safe Care is doing the same thing. So topic is increased father engagement, primary driver, increased father involvement in parenting, starting with July 15th to December 15th. We selected this because we believe that by welcoming dads into the program and providing information about the importance of the role as fathers, that could increase then their involvement with their children. Our SMART aim, we selected any family that we enroll in July 2020. And they have a father figure as well. It was the hope it was to demonstrate 10% of increase of father involvement by December 15th. So we did also, and we utilized part of Yolanda's letters as well. So thank you, Yolanda. And our weekly outcome is welcome letters and materials given to the dad. And we're just going to, encourage them spending time. We're not, the difference with Ariana's project is that we're not giving them a specific activities to do. We just want, as long as they either play with a child outside, ball, catch, whatever they want inside, or if they play with them, read with them, or eat as a family, any activities that we'll do with their children. And the way we were gonna track that is with the father engagement questions that Dr. Barr gave us. So we're gonna track what materials have been distributed. So the first round, here for PAT, we have already sent 18 welcoming letters. That was directly sent to dad on dad's name. And for Safe Care, just 5 new families that had a father figure. So we're slowly getting there. So we're gonna track, what materials have been distributed. Some of the disruptors, if, home cancellations, predictions that dad will feel more welcome into the program, and then he will increase their knowledge of the his importance and the role of his children, and that will maybe motivate him to, do any activities with their child. We created a letter. We selected the materials to be distributed. So we found in the National Responsible Fatherhood Clearinghouse several materials that we like. I can show you in a little bit. So the first one, everyone has the same, like the welcoming letter. The first one that's talking about 10 things that every father should be doing, and then they're personalizing according to if the mom is pregnant, or if the child was just born, or if it's mom and dad, parenting. So we selected a couple of those, and we kind of personalize it according to the family. What else? Okay, so who's gonna do the change? Parent educators or family support workers. Again, so all those families that started in July 2020, and they had a father figure living at home. The first thing, as I mentioned, sending that welcoming letter, and then on every month we're sending a material really short and small. We didn't want to lump into a packet because maybe that would be put aside. So it's individually, it's been sent. And just maybe motivating mom as the parent educators are talking to them, also the importance of that, and maybe putting together what we did. And the first one, just touching some of those points, asking if that, is participating. We wanted to do it also not to overwhelm the staff with more questions. So the only question we're utilizing is the questions that we're going to be asking anyways every other month. Where is virtually or physically if possible, but right now is everything is virtual. Again, we started July 15th, and as I mentioned, we have 18 letters that were sent in PAT and 5 in Safe Care. This, at the end of this week, we're gonna be sending the second letter to 5 of those families that the letter was sent almost a month ago. Let me see change theory, and I don't know if you can see that, or I need to share again.
I think you have to share again. Right now we can.
Okay, so it's right here.
Perfect.
Basically what I just said, distributing the welcoming letters, share reading materials about the importance of the role of the father every month. So we think that he's going to feel more welcome, and understanding a little more about his role as a father, and maybe increasing the participation in an activity, either playing with the child, eating with the child, reading with the child, whatever the situation is, and increase father involvement. And let me show you some of the, let me get here into the CQI. So the letters were different. So that's the Spanish one for welcome dad. The letters are different because it's explaining a little bit what the Parents as Teachers program does, and then Safe Care. Then some of the materials from the clearinghouse is this one. So this one
We're
is,
still, sorry, Patty, right now we see the search document. Search
okay,
not the
yes,
actual document.
second. So every time I get out, it seems like.
Yeah, unless you share just the whole screen, which sometimes
Yeah.
is an option, then we can track as you change.
So,
Oh, there we go, perfect.
okay, so these are the kind of the materials. This was the longest one. We tried to consider some shorter ones. So it's a National Responsible Fatherhood Clearinghouse. So give time to your children, don't hide your love. And so it just has 10 points. And this was the longest. The other ones are shorter. Let me just stop the sharing. Some of the, let me see if I can get it here. Like your baby arrive, the dynamic dads, preparing for the new baby, or healthy relationships. So things like that they had. And then we created one, I guess, just with a specific information. Let me see if I find that. The very short, small ones. Let me just share this one. So there's talking about, take time with your children. So some ideas that we were given, and play outside with your children inside on the house, or read with your child. So we just gonna giving them ideas, tell them I love you, blah, 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 blah. And some of this information came from the National Response. So very short, small things. And that's it.
Wonderful. So you started in, you said about mid-July rolling this out?
July, we, the families that have a father figure, we started sending the letters at the end of July. But it was anyone that started in July. Those are the ones that we're considering for this PDSA.
So how does it seem to be going so far?
Well, we've been sending the letters so far. So they have asked, like, Mom, he received it? And I mean, he was like, oh, wow. He was like, I received a letter, because it was directly to his name. We put his name in it, the name of the worker, even their phone number, their cell phone number, the whole thing, if they want it. So for now, I mean, it seems like, they all got the letter. Let's see now the next round that is going to be more of a specific things of the importance of the role. And we haven't started with they started with the questions. I don't know. I think that just last week they said that we had that ready to go. So this week they were going to start, but basically I feel it's going to be more in September. So this week and the end of September, they're going to start asking the questions. But so far, it's been simple in the sense that it's just like, have you given a letter? Then the ones that we're given the second information, that we're just going to record that, if has it that given or not. And then the rest is the questions that Dr. Bar has for us. to do to the rest of the team.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And now I think we're going to turn, we have PCCT PAT. Are you able to present?
Hi. Yes.
Hi, Marisol.
Hi. I was trying to scroll so I can share my screen. Okay. So our project is to increase reading frequency of father and father figures to his child. And our primary driver is to improve relationship with father or father figures. We said actually the time from July 15 to January, but our surveys were not ready until August. So technically we really started in August doing both surveys and providing materials. What we are trying to, I guess our smart aim is to provide father figures with handouts and materials about the importance of reading to their young children, to increase the number of days fathers read to their child each week by a 10% as reported by mothers. So the idea is to really try to invite fathers who are at home to participate on the project, but we also know that this is not a big number of them. So we have left handouts with mom. We have, in the occasions when we are able to reach the dad, we have actually give them the handouts directly to him and try to keep them engaged. So the handouts that we're using is like early brain development, importance of reading, instructions for library online, book access, resources to obtain free books from different providers. And materials are really free books, resources of, again, to obtain free books from different providers, since we are not able to see them face-to-face right now. We're still doing virtual visits. We have planned a virtual story time, and we will use a PAT activity book. So our weekly outcome measure is going to, the numerator is going to be the number of fathers and mothers read to children each week, and the denominator will be days per week. And so it will be, I guess the questions will be like, how many days does mother read to the child each week, and how many days of fathers read, father figure reads to his child each week. And so even though the main point of our aim is to really increase the frequency of father and father figures read to the child, we also wanted to know, because in general, we are very interested in increasing the reading time for a child. We wanted to know if also mother, if dad is not reading, if mother also was reading to them. So that's what we added that. So change will be measured every 8 weeks. We'll track pre and post responses using headlamp plots, the average scores before and after handouts distribution, the bar charts. I guess the tools that we have been using from the prior one too, it will be kind of the same. The bar chart showing before and after improvement portions. And so the process measure, I was adding questions to ETO to track whether the PN educator left handouts or materials for father figure and which ones were those. The disruptor measure is that fathers might know, or father figures might not know how to read. And actually earlier in a meeting with my staff, that came up. And so that would be maybe something that I need to ask later for you guys, how we can manage that based on our survey questions that we might need to adjust it. But anyway, so because some of the fathers, what happen, even though they don't know how to read, they might be using books or making up stories And that is still is increasing the getting kids familiar with books and getting that quality time, improving language, vocabulary, and obviously, you know, getting closer, like the relationship with father figures. So I guess that was something that we didn't quite think it like that. Anyway, so the other one would be also that the mother might not share the written information or resources with the father or father figure, either because they might not have a very good relationship, or perhaps she forgets. That could be one of our disruptors. So prediction would be that we will get at least 5% increase in the frequency of days that father or father figures read to their children. And so the tools needed to complete the cycle will be collecting handouts from with importance of reading and brain development, have tracking questions added to ETO, which we did all of this already. Like I said, we might just have to tweak a little bit the questions, or yeah, or maybe we just have to discuss if that's even necessary. So the story time for the group connections, since I don't know if we are going to be doing virtual visits or not, this group connection timeline, it will be almost at the end of the CQI. So it's almost like we are waiting. We kind of have a plan of what will happen. Our idea was really, or is, to invite a storyteller from the library. And we will do it either bilingual, or we will do two groups like we've been doing, one in English and one in Spanish. But we're just waiting to see what will happen. If we go back to face-to-face group time, or it will be just virtual. Either way, I think that we have it very well set up as much as we can, you know, just waiting like a month or so before that to just finalize it. And so the plan is like, who will implement the change? It will be all the home visit staff. The target, who is targeted within the change is the families who are enrolled in the program at the starting time of the CQI. And I think that maybe these, that would be also something that I needed to talk to you, because we keep increasing clients, we keep bringing more clients, and I also think that they might benefit from the project. I don't know how that is going to skew the data, because my idea was almost not to start quite from a baseline like we are with these families, but almost just get them the information, whatever month that we are, because we think that it will be beneficial, the resources. Or we can just avoid the survey and still give the materials, but that probably is something that I need to check with you. And then what? So father and father figures will receive handouts with the importance of reading and effective brain development, online library resources, the free books, the story time, during group connections to increase the number of days that caregivers read to their children. And so this technically was going to happen in the house, the family's homes, I guess, which is still happening on the family homes, just virtually. And we were starting at the first home visit and every month after that for 6 months. So again, we said that it was going to be July, but we started in August, and then we are going to keep doing that until the end of January. I just wanted to show this other part. So something that I created for my staff to remind them about the surveys and the different materials that they needed to provide was this timeline. They have so many other stuff to do that I just create like almost like one-to-one step and saying, what do you need to complete in the first home visit? What do you need to complete in the second home visit? And then the resources, so I put the link in September and October. We have to do again the collaborative father and the PDA surveys, and what material are they, and then so forth and so on until January. Which is not part of CQI, and I just thought that was a good reminder.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of making it simple.
That's great. Do you have your change theory diagram?
Yeah, can you see it?
We can't. I think you have to
Oh.
unshare the original document and then share the change theory, because you're probably just sharing individual documents.
Yes. Okay. Now can you see it?
Yes, now we can.
Yes, now I can see. Okay. So probably the prior document you didn't see it either, but
No.
okay. So the change of theory diagram is increase the frequency that father and father figure reads to his children, well, his child, I guess. And we will keep tracking of the handouts given by parents to read to children. Or disruptor, there will be, the father or father figures who are illiterate. We will also keep tracking of the reading materials provided, the father and father figures. We keep tracking of caregivers' frequency to read to their children. Like I said, we will, even though we're focusing on father figures, we wanted to know also if mom do that or no. And then the other disruptor would be the mothers, mothers who do not provide the reading resources to father figures for any number of reasons. And so the aim is to improve relationship with father or father figures.
Great. I'm wondering, do you have fathers and father figures, I'm assuming, who aren't residing in the home with the child, who maybe are residing somewhere else? We're trying to do this.
Right now, I don't know of any of those. We have father figures who travel a lot, who might be coming back, like once a month, and they stay for a month or 2 months, and then they have to leave again, depending on where they find a job. And so all these materials, they are being also shared. Well, some of the parent educators have been mailing some of the resources, but also they are being sharing it to texts and emails. And in that way, also mothers can share that information. A few parent educators have have a few of the numbers of the father figures, but maybe it's a handful. So we cannot really connect with that. We do have a few fathers who are actually the primary caregiver, and they are obviously getting all that directly.
One of the reasons I ask, have you heard of the Caribou reading app? Heard of that one?
I don't think so.
It's a reading app that I believe a lot of the content is free. And the way it works, it's an interactive app. So you can go onto it. So you can have an account where a caregiver, like a grandparent or father or somebody who's not in the home, can log on and call the child on another phone. So if the mom has the app, they can send it to the child. And it has books listed on there. And when you pick a book, it goes through the pages of the book, and the person can read to the child via this app.
That's awesome. No, I don't think I knew about
it. Also might even have audio books. So for the fathers who aren't as literate, it might be something where they could go through it together and listen to stories together, possibly. And so they could still have that engagement if the father's not in the house, or if the father's not as literate and wants to go through that together. I think they originally designed it for like grandparents who live far away. That's actually how I know about it. Children do it with their grandparents.
Okay.
But it might be something that, since it's a free content, And
Yeah.
for the fathers who aren't always in the home, who might be traveling, might be a way that they could do this more on a daily basis. It might be a little bit more fun than trying to Zoom read or something, because then you're flipping the book and that gets challenging.
Yeah.
So just let
I
them-
got to look into that. Because I think that part of the library resources too, they were able to do some of it, but I honestly not so sure. It almost felt like it was just more to listen in than quiet watching, both parties to do the reading. So
yeah,
thank you for letting me know about it.
absolutely.
And Anira, I'm not sure if you guys saw this, but Anira had a comment about the question asking the father figure if he could read.
Oh, yeah. So she said
yes.
maybe change the question to, does father figure know how to read? It could be, does father figure know how to read or communicate the book's content with the child? So kind of broadening the definition.
That could be it. Maybe that would be the solution. Because like I said, today, and I have, I read those questions, mainly it was that one, right? Like, and I guess it apply also to our Spanish speaking clients only, that we suggest, they do not read English. And in general, we have always suggested that because children really don't know how to read that, when they are that young, it doesn't matter what language it is. I mean, it could be in Chinese or, whatever. We're talking about babies or toddlers. And so you can just make up stories. Another reason too is that sometimes parents get bored, reading the same story and kind of the same few letters, few words, and that's it. So you can get more animated on there, and change voices, make faces, and create a different story with the same character. But nevertheless, it could be intimidating for some of the Spanish-speaking clients, just saying, "Oh, this is in English." So some we're talking about the stories, and particularly that other dad who is really engaged with the kid, but he doesn't know how to read. So it doesn't use books. And this particular parent care was saying that, right? And it feels so bad because he feels that he is improving the life of the child so much. And it's almost like she doesn't answer the rest of the questions because that particular did not apply. And from my point of view, I was saying that if he uses a book too, and it doesn't matter if he's telling a story, that to me is like it's reading to the child. And, that's kind of what we're trying to create, a relationship, with the child, but also the familiarity with books, getting them ready for school, in the future, right? Not be so stranger to a book and say, oh, I have to do this. But maybe adding that to the question, and I think that was very good suggestion. So should I later just send an email on that to you guys, or I send it to Anira?
That'd be great. Yeah.
Okay.
And then any other questions? I know you mentioned a couple of questions that you might have had about some implementation changes. If there's anything you want to discuss with me and Dr. Barr, just send us an email and we can kind of go back and forth after the call.
Yeah, I can send that to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Marisol.
Thank you.
I think we have one more group, so that's Safe Care Tulsa.
Hi.
Hello, Sherry. Are you able to present?
Yes. Yeah, I can. I can do that. Okay, so let me share my screen. I think I have everything pulled up. Okay, so you guys can see this?
Yes.
Okay. Let me see. Okay. My net extender has been going in and out today, so hopefully I'm still connected with that. So this is our PDSA. We are working on improving relationships with fathers, and our start date was August the 1st through the end of November. And our SMART aim is to increase dad's engagement level with his child by having him complete 3 5-minute activities weekly with his child using ideas provided by the parent educator, increasing father engagement as reported by mom's satisfaction reports for 10% of our families by the 30th. Then we have our weekly outcome measure. Will be asking moms for her satisfaction report on a weekly, every week. And then number of activities dad successfully completes with the child on a weekly basis is going to be our process measure. And I can, let's see, yeah, I can scroll down. Then our disruptor measures were going to be that the mom was not willing to provide any of the father's contact information. Fathers were not involved, or there's not a father figure. We know a lot of our fathers work, and sometimes that schedule can conflict with the time that they have to spend with the child. A lot of our fathers tend to work late and on weekends. Another one is father refuses to do the activity or not completing the 3 activities that we've asked for them to do per week, or that our parent educator forgets to send them an activity. Our predictions are that we will get at least 5% of fathers engaged in more parenting roles. And then the task and the tools needed for this were to be, we want to send an activity idea to the parent on a weekly basis. This is something we want to have the parent educator talk about with the parent so that they understand what the expectation is. We also wanted to have tracking added to ETO, which has been done. And there is a drop-down box that's been added to measure if the father completes the activity or not. And also a reason why. So all of that's been taken care of. So who was to plan? Who is this for? All of our staff. We have 2 different funding sources. We have the MIECHV source and then private, but both of those groups will be providing this information to their parents. We are going to do this with all of the families that have a father or father figure involved. Our fathers will receive a range of activities to complete with their children, and this will occur in the family's home. And then these activities will be given during the visit that we have with our parent on a weekly basis, and we are doing our visits currently virtually. And then we will have that parent, that father figure, pick out a minimum of 3 times a week to do that activity with that child. We did not formally ask our parents to send a video or pictures of father playing with their child, but we do know that some of our families are doing that to our workers. So that's really good. So that is our PDSA. What questions do you have for me?
I'm muted. I was muting out my children who are in the background. Do you have the change theory diagram? Maybe you could walk us through that. That would be great.
Okay. Oops. The other way. So you wanted the change theory?
That would be perfect. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So here we go. We want to increase the engagement of the father role. Disruptors are mothers not willing to provide father contact information, father not involved, dad does not complete 3 activities in a week, or the father's work schedule prevents it, or the PE does not send the activity. So then our goal is to have the father complete 3 activities with the child weekly. The PE provides activities for dad to complete with the child. We're looking at satisfaction with mother's report. And our hope is to increase mom satisfaction with the father's role in parenting. And overall, we're looking at improving relationships with father.
Wonderful. So I know it's early days yet, but how does it seem like things are going so far with rolling this out?
So far, so good. Parents are open to it. One of the things that I know I need to work with my staff on is this is in addition to the roles that our fathers are already doing with their children. This is adding, and I don't know that some of my parent educators are aware of that. And so that is something that I will be working with them to so that they have a clear understanding. This is in addition to what fathers' roles are already, what fathers are already doing. So I created a list. I don't know if you want to see it or not.
Sure, that'd be great.
And it's just a very simple list of activities that parent educators can talk to their parents about. I tried to create it to where they are using items that they already have in the home, and something that can be used with all levels, all ages of children. And so some of them are things like making animals or puppets from toilet paper or paper towel, cardboard inserts so that you can make finger puppets. That's something any child of any age likes. Building blanket forts, creating something with cardboard boxes, because we all have numerous, or at least in our home, cardboard boxes now from shopping online. Playing together with water because it's hot outside. That thing kids of all ages like. Playing with blocks, reading stories together. And I made a note of your caribou reading it. I thought that I'll go check that out after this meeting. Finger painting with pudding. Doing a dance party, just having everybody dance. Playing hide and go seek, indoor hopscotch, or you can do that outdoor. Anybody, children of all ages can play catch, roll the ball, or throw an actual ball for them to catch outside or inside. Peekaboo, lost and found, create a sensory bin, blow bubbles together, dress up, make a story and just make up a story and just tell it, sing a song together. Those were some of the ideas that I came up with.
That's a great list. I made a similar list pre-COVID when everything started to go virtual. I thought we might get pretty repetitive at home, so it might be nice to have a wide range of activities to pull out when the kids start saying that they're bored. So
right.
That's a nice list.
Thank you. So I was trying to keep it to where it was something that is pretty accessible in your home, because we don't want people to have to go out and purchase anything or.
It's
all about play.
Yeah.
Some extra time with your child during play.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And it's, sometimes hard to think of all those different ways to play with, not requiring much, but that's a nice extensive list. So I'm sure the families will enjoy that.
We will see.
All right. I think that those are all the groups that we had for show and tell today. So what I'm going to do now is pull up a presentation that I wrote for this class or call. Let's see, I'll pull it up right here. Okay, let me open it. There we go. Okay, can everyone see that? Is it fully open to the full screen?
Yeah, there's a little bit of like a white bar on the side, but
no, that white bar was there, so that's fine.
Okay.
I think it's just kind of slightly cutting off a little bit. But
that's fine. It looks great.
Okay, so what I wanted to do today is to just present some research on the topic of father engagement. So what do we know about how fathers are currently involved in home visiting, some of the challenges that exist, and some avenues for potential change. So I'm just going to present some recent work. I kept it to findings from 2016 and more recent, so just to get really kind of the new literature out there. So I'll start with what we know about fathers. And I don't think I need to convince anyone on this call that fathers play a central role in child development. We know from research that fathers play a critical role in their children's development. So when fathers are more engaged, there are benefits to children's well-being, including lower aggression, delinquency, depression, and anxiety, as well as better performance in school and social relationships. Right now, anecdotally at least, it seems that fathers participate relatively infrequently and inconsistently in home visiting, and that there are some real challenges and barriers that may impede fathers from participating in home visiting. However, recently, as people have begun to understand the benefits to father participation, there have been some new efforts at engaging and retaining fathers in home visiting. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk through studies that have addressed each of these 4 topics. Before I do that, as I was preparing this talk, I started thinking about the role of fathers in some of the work that I've done previously. And to be honest, fathers are often ignored in child development literature. There's a heavy emphasis on mothers. I went back and looked at my dissertation data. So for that study, what I did is I interviewed children who had been removed from home due to maltreatment. So they had substantiated cases of maltreatment, and they were residing in a temporary care facility while they were awaiting a more permanent placement. And so when I interviewed these kids, I asked them about events in their lives where they felt particularly sad or particularly mad, and what they did to make those negative feelings go away. And so what I did this week was I went back and I looked at those transcripts, and what I saw was that about 25% of the kids were actually mentioning events related to a father or a father figure in their life. So many of the kids were talking about some negative events with their dads, but it was usually around feelings of sadness or anger at losing a father or having their relationship jeopardized. So whether the father was incarcerated or passed away, or when the child was removed from home. But some kids were also talking about their father figure as a source of support. So when they were dealing with negative emotions, they found their fathers as a support base that they could go to talk to them about their feelings. And I also looked to see how often they were mentioning mothers, and it looked like about 40% of the time they were talking about moms. So dads really weren't trailing far behind moms in the minds of these kids, which I thought was particularly striking, since I wasn't looking at that in my dissertation data. It was just something that came out as children got to talk about their own experiences. But what does this mean for home visiting? So we know that father figures are important to children and are a crucial link in their healthy development. So for programs like home visiting, there have been ways to try and improve long-term outcomes for kids by getting their fathers to participate. I found 2 recent studies that specifically looked at father engagement in home visiting, so I'm going to walk through what those studies found. The first one is a study through Healthy Families New York, and this was a program for expectant and new mothers who came from socioeconomically disadvantaged families. And in this study, they had data from 3,341 families who had participated in this program. And the researchers wanted to examine a few key questions. Oh, that's the wrong direction. So they wanted to know, to what extent do fathers participate in Healthy Families New York? So without any type of intervention, just what are the base rates of father participation? And then how does father participation in this program correlate or relate to family program retention, so keeping the families in the home visiting program, paternal co-residence with mother and child, so fathers actually living in the home with the family, and father's emotional involvement with the child. So the researchers gathered data from intake interviews with mothers. So they had a system similar to the ETO, in which the home providers put data into the system, and then the researchers used that data to track how often fathers were participating. But they also got measures of family characteristics. So were the parents married? Were they the biological parents? Was the dad living in the home with the mother? Also, again, father's involvement. So was he participating? How many visits did he participate in? And then they had other outcomes related to family risk and other participation variables. What they found was, first, in terms of just basic demographics, about 68% of the fathers were living at home with mom and baby. 19% of the couples were married. And 54% of the families began the home visiting program before their child was born. When they looked at fathers' participation, about 65% of fathers participated in at least one visit during the course of the family's participation in home visiting. And when they looked across all the visits that a family did, dads participated in about 22% of all the visits that were completed. They also wanted to know if there were certain factors about dad that might predict more involvement in home visiting. And what they found was that, and this is perhaps not surprising, fathers who were living in the home were more likely to participate in home visiting, and also fathers who are rated as being emotionally involved with their kids. So when they asked about father involvement, one of the questions they asked is the father emotionally involved in the child's life, financially involved in the child's life, neither or both? And what they found was that it was particularly those fathers that were rated as being emotionally involved. Whether or not they were financially involved didn't seem to matter, but emotional involvement did. They also wanted to see what father participation meant for families' involvement, and they found that families were 4 times more likely to remain in home visiting for 6 months if the father had attended at least one visit. And fathers who were living in the home at the time of intake, home visitation participation made them 3 times more likely to remain in the home at 6 months. So if the dad was already living at home and did participate in at least one home visiting session, he was 3 times more likely to still be living at the home 6 months later than fathers who did not participate in home visiting. The results were even more striking for fathers who weren't living in the home. So for fathers who were not living at home at the time of intake, home visiting participation led to them being 5 times more likely to move into the family home by 6 months. So again, one home visit or more was predictive of them being 5 times more likely to move into the family home. There was a similar study that was recently conducted. Again, this is with the Healthy Families model, but this time out of Massachusetts. It was very similar, so I'm not going to go through everything that they did, but they had a nice visual representation of some of the data, so I thought I would put that up now. So what you see here is the total number of visits right here that a family participated in. And the number of visits varies depending on whether the fathers were involved in home visiting or not. So this lightest bar, lost my pointer, there we go. The lightest bar right here, those are mothers who did not have a father partner to participate in the home visiting with them. And as you can see, as fathers became more involved, so fathers who participated informally, so they may have just once in a while shown up to a visit, but they weren't formal participants, or fathers who were formal participants over here, so they were actually listed as one of the participants in the home visiting program. They were much more likely to complete an extended number of visits, so almost twice what mothers were completing if they didn't have that father figure support. So the data presented so far, what I've just shown you, that was based on kind of ETO tracking data as well as mothers' perspectives on fathers' engagement. What I wanted to also present were some findings about perspectives on father engagement and home visiting from the point of view of administrators and home visiting providers themselves. So in 2016, Stephen McMillan out of St. Louis provided a qualitative study. He completed a qualitative study, and his aim was to gather perspectives from home visiting program administrators on what father involvement in home visiting has been and what it could be. He had two types of participants. So he interviewed state level trainers and administrators who serve home visiting at the macro level, and then program supervisors embedded into individual home visiting programs who could offer more of an on the ground viewpoint. And the two programs that he focused on were Healthy Families America and Parents as Teachers. After he interviewed all of the administrators and providers, what he did was he went back and coded the transcripts of those interviews for themes that came out. And what he found were a few emerging themes, including familiarity, but little direct experience. So this was administrators and home visiting providers said that father engagement was an important topic. It was something that was talked a lot in their program or across programs. They had a lot of familiarity with hearing this be an important topic, but they had little direct experience themselves with any type of intervention or enhancement to their direct program around father engagement. And they mentioned also that they felt that if there were going to be father engagement enhancement, so added components to their programming, they would need some additional training to pull that off. And then they listed some barriers that might get in the way of getting fathers involved. So one barrier that was mentioned quite a bit, especially at the administrative level, was the role of male home visiting providers. So this was really emphasizing the point that there are not many male home visiting providers, and that many of the administrators at least thought that if we're trying to engage fathers, that perhaps it'd be helpful to have a home visiting provider who was male, who could maybe offer a different perspective or get the fathers to buy in a little bit differently. So here's a quote from one of the administrators regarding this topic. So I'll read it out because it's rather lengthy. So this administrator said, "I've considered the male home visitor thing many times because in my head, intellectually, I want to say, wow, they can really give a different perspective. They can do the job just as well. But then I have to come back to reality, which is that these are teenage girls with boyfriends, maybe husbands in some cases. And most of these relationships are dysfunctional already, racked with jealousy already, and a lot of issues culturally. So you can't really send in a man to a teen girl if she's the only one in home. So although I've come across a lot of males who could do the job, I think culturally they would have a big, 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 big problem." So again, stressing that perhaps just having a male home visiting provider is challenging, but also not the only answer, and maybe there are other ways. Other barriers that were mentioned were funding related, which is perhaps not surprising. That comes up across the board when we talk about barriers for these types of programs. So one is how to bill for services. So for home visiting in hospital settings, this can be challenging if it requires medical insurance, which young fathers may not have. Other providers mentioned budget cuts. So father engagement is a lot of times seen as kind of a supplement or an added on component to home visiting, not a central component. So if budget cuts were going to happen, they tend to happen first. Oh, got stuck. Others mentioned grant problems more generally. So delays in getting funding for programs on father engagement, as well as issues around really targeted specific grants that might not be applicable to their program. So some of the grants had very stringent criteria. They wanted certain types of interventions, very intensive interventions that just weren't feasible to implement. So the providers didn't bother applying for the grants. But the administrators also mentioned things that were working. So one thing that they said, here's a quote, which is, "My family support workers do a great job of making the fathers feel comfortable. They always laugh about how when you first start making visits to the home, the fathers are like, no, I'm not going to be part of this. Then within a couple of weeks, they're right there in all the meetings too. We've had a few fathers just recently say, I want you to schedule all home visits when I'm here, because they want to learn too. It's not a control thing or anything like that, but just that they want to learn." So this is really kind of pinpointing and highlighting that sometimes what's working right now anyway is more informal engagement. So not deliberately creating an enhancement or an intervention per se, but just individual providers going out of their way to make fathers feel engaged. So where do we go from here? We've seen that fathers are infrequently and relatively inconsistently involved in home visiting, but that their involvement in home visiting has crucial implications for family engagement and retention, as well as family functioning more broadly. We've also heard some of the challenges and barriers that exist when trying to promote father engagement, and that often the most successful engagement occurs informally through efforts of individual home visiting providers. But are there ways to more systematically engage fathers in home visiting? A couple of recent studies have attempted to address this question. Can they create tailored interventions that are feasible and successful at engaging fathers in these programs? So one that I'm going to walk through that was recently done is the Tennessee Dads Project. This intervention is a 24-session in-home parenting education program for fathers. The overarching goals of the intervention are to engage fathers in home visiting services, so increase the number of visits that the father attends, to improve fathers' knowledge of child development, to improve co-parenting relationship quality between mom and dad, to enhance fathering identity and personal well-being for fathers. What this program did was they created a core curriculum with 8 modules, and each module had 3 topic guides. So I won't get into all the details about the curriculum, but basically they had these different themes and topics that they wanted to address with dads around partnership quality, communication, stress within parenting, child development issues. And they housed all of the materials in a physical toolbox with the dad's name. So they thought that perhaps by having it in a toolbox and having it this physical toolbox that fathers could see and engage in, that maybe it would kind of help the fathers with buy-in and make them feel a little bit more included. They had 5 steps for fidelity that they required the home visitors to do. So the first one is call. This included the home visiting provider calling dad before a visit to schedule a time that works for him and to encourage him to attend. Second was carry. So the home visiting providers brought that toolbox to every visit, regardless of whether the father was expected to be there or not. 3 was offer. So the home visiting provider would ask the father right at the start of each visit if he had 5 minutes to engage in one topic guide with the provider and receive a child-related gift for participation. So inside that toolbox, in addition to the materials and guides, were also gifts that the father could earn for participation. So things like a book, puzzles, a rattle, things that they could do or share with their children. And so if the father agreed to participate in one 5-minute topic guide, then he would earn one of those gifts. And then transition step 4 was if the father participated in that 5-minute topic guide, the home visitor tried to transition him into staying for the rest of the visit. So that's why that first offer was always at the beginning, that 5 minutes, get father to kind of buy in and see if he can remain the rest of the visit. And then 5 was follow up. So after the visit, the home visiting provider called or texted dad directly to thank him for participating and to encourage him to attend the next visit. So the research team then did a study. They did a randomized control trial. So what they did was they randomly assigned by basically a flip of a coin whether families would be in the treatment group or control group. So treatment group meant that the dads received this intervention, and control group, the mothers just participated as normal and fathers could join in as they would choose to do independently of any type of intervention. And they wanted to know, do treatment dads then attend more visits? And what they found was that they do. So treatment dads participated in about 62% of all the home visits, and the control fathers participated in about 37%. And I should mention that if we go back to the original goals of the intervention, so they really answered the first one. So if the fathers participate in an intervention, they're more engaged. They are also doing follow-up studies to look at these other outcomes of interest. This is a first step. It was just published this year, so they're still engaging in additional research on this topic. So we'll see. Hopefully more papers will come out describing some of these other outcomes. Then a second study that had an intervention that was recently done is a Dads Matter project. So this project was designed to be a little bit shorter and briefer. So this is a 4 to 8 session in-home parenting education program for fathers. And this was designed around early Head Start programming and parents as teachers. So the previous one was with Healthy Families. This one had these other programs that were involved. And the program was designed to be delivered in parallel to mother services. So they really tried to make sure that the material didn't overlap. It was new and novel material that could complement what the mothers were learning so that it wouldn't seem repetitive or unnecessary. They also designed this intervention so that it could be delivered by any home visiting provider. It didn't require advanced degrees or advanced clinical training to be administered. This intervention had 29 service activities around several topics. So their goals were to engage the father within the family context, to clarify each parent's role and expectations, to identify areas of conflict between the mom and the father, to improve communication between mom and dad, and to manage father's stress and anger. Similar to the other study, they did a randomized control, so 12 families participated in the treatment condition and 12 participated as controls. What was slightly different about this study versus the other ones I've talked about before is that all the parents were biological parents. So in some of the other studies, the mother could identify a father figure who was not necessarily the biological father. In this case, all of them were biological parents. David's giving me a 5-minute warning. Don't worry, David, I'm almost done. So then what they found was with the treatment group that there was better relationship with home visiting providers between dad and the home visiting provider. There were better partner relationships between mom and dad, reduced risk of child abuse and neglect, more confidence in father's own parenting, and reduced parenting stress for dads, as well as reduced partner abuse and greater verbalizations with the child. So what does all this mean and where do we go from here? So first, probably no surprise, but research studies confirm that father engagement in home visiting is currently rather infrequent and inconsistent. However, when fathers do engage, it improves home visiting and family outcomes. So families are more likely to stay in home visiting longer, and children do better when fathers engage in home visiting. We also learned from the qualitative study that there's some important barriers to father engagement. So formal enhancements are rare, but informal efforts are perhaps more common and currently maybe more successful. There are also some supports for new interventions designed for fathers in home visiting. I realize, however, that when you think about what you can take away from some of these interventions, some of them may not be feasible in your current program. So 29 activities or 24 sessions may not be currently feasible to add on to your programming, but there might be individual sessions or activities that would work. For example, with the Tennessee Dads, those 5 steps of fidelity related to calling the father, carrying the equipment to every visit, offering to have him participate in the first 5 minutes. Those are kind of smaller, more manageable steps that may be of use within your program, maybe things that you could incorporate or think about in addition to what you're already doing for your PDSAs. And obviously I didn't provide all the details about the interventions here. I do have some more information. I have the papers that were published about these interventions. So if people would like to see those, I can send those out for people to get more details. So thank you very much. And that is it for the talk. So I'm happy to take, we have a few more minutes. So David, should we take some questions or do you want to just do a few things for wrap up?
No, let's take questions. That's
Okay.
That was my intent behind the 5-minute warning. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm very good at multitasking. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer. I know that was a lot of information quickly. Thank you, Anira. Anira said it was a nice review.
Part of the purpose of today was, obviously you've already established your projects for this action period, but thinking ahead, we have one more father engagement action period that will begin in January. And I know it's maybe a little too early to be thinking about the next one, but just to seed some ideas and to give you ideas of where to look next when we turn the page on action period 2 and start focusing on action period 3. Our hope is to revisit some of this material in the calls that are ahead and invite some of the authors of the papers that Helen just reviewed to give us some inside look at the findings that were presented and maybe even some of the work that hasn't been published yet that's following up on these initial studies.
Yes, someone asked if I can share. I will make sure that the PowerPoint gets sent out to everyone. Caitlin will send out those materials. David, I think probably the main thing that we might want to just address before we finish up the call is we had talked about starting to do the rounding calls again.
Yes.
So I highlighted here, you can see the screen, the groups that we were planning to call, and also having some September progress reports from those groups. Can you see that there on the screen?
We can see them. Are the top 4 the ones you had in mind for the
yes
for next month? Yeah.
Yeah, so the top 4 that say September progress report, those were the ones, and then the other 2 I think we'll just call and check in we were talking about.
Excellent. Yeah. So, we've sort of taken a hiatus. I guess this began back in April even with COVID. And over the last month, we have relented on our rounding calls because we knew it was a bit early in the process to be talking about progress when you're just getting started. But we will reignite those this next month. And the 6 who see their name listed here will be setting up a call with you, hopefully by the end of this week. So be on the lookout for an email from Caitlin about setting up those calls. And then just in general, of course, we'll want to set the time for the next monthly call. So a doodle poll for that will also be distributed along with today's recording.
All right, I think we covered everything then. We just made it at exactly time.
Okay, great job, Helen. Thank you for presenting and thank you for organizing today's agenda. Thanks to all for participating and listening. If you have questions either about today's call or about your specific PDSA, please do not hesitate to email or call. And as I said, we'll be in touch directly with at least 6 of you, and I hope electronically back and forth with the rest of you as we flesh out the details of this current PDSA and in particular the development of your dashboards. All right. Have a great afternoon. Thanks again.
Thanks, everyone.